The term walking simulator is often used as a pejorative in modern gaming. Fulbright's Gone Home was probably the first one to become a critical hit, and while it does have value as a narrative work, it's really not much of a game. It's an experience in which you search a house to reveal the nature of a story which isn't made immediately clear. Did it deserve all the 10 out of 10s it got from places like IGN? Probably not, but it's not a terrible product either. It's a small story which was a creative use of the medium and was then overrated to the point that it made a vast swath of gamers resent an entire genre. Hideo Kojima's Death Stranding is called a walking simulator by many, and this is not a very accurate term to describe what this game actually is. Kojima's first game outside of Konami is fundamentally, at its core, about delivering packages. You pick up a package from one location, deliver it to a destination, and repeat. While you do walk in order to get some of the packages where they need to go, the complexity and sophistication of the gameplay systems push it closer to the action genre, and the result is something which I prefer to call a traversal simulator. Traversing the environment in Death Stranding involves a lot of thought and choices on the player's part. You begin a run by choosing what you would like to bring with you. If you take nothing but the package itself, you'll be light, quick, have great balance, and be able to sprint for a long time without running out of breath. However, you may find yourself needing to take the long way around a mountain, which you could have scaled and descended had you brought some ladders and climbing rope. As you get further into the game, you encounter more numerous and more aggressive enemies. Do you load up on weapons, or do you keep your kit lean and rely on outrunning them? You are rated on both the speed of your deliveries and the integrity of your cargo, and destruction of your package results in a fail state, so it behooves you to prepare well for each mission. This feels kinda similar to the pre-mission preparation in Kojima's previous game, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. While that was technically a stealth action game in the same vein as the previous entries in the series in a few ways, it was also a very open-ended game where you could approach a mission any way you wanted. You could prepare a stealth build, tackle your objective at night by slipping in and out unnoticed, or load up on guns and storm in broad daylight, killing every enemy unit on the map. Death Stranding offers a similar amount of flexibility, just with different factors to consider. The most important factor is the terrain you'll be crossing, and the map system in Death Stranding is your greatest tool for dealing with it. You can plot out a route, which can then give you an idea of the best path to be taking, and it's very rare that the as the crow flies path is ideal. An ideal path is one which you can minimize your use of resources, minimize contact with enemies, be they the human mules or the ghostly BTs, and maximize the efficiency of the run. But why are we doing this? What is the point of all these deliveries? What are BTs, and why does Norman Reedus have an incredible fetus attached to his chest? Death Stranding's greatest strength is that the story and world it exists in can't really be compared to anything else in fiction, or at least anything else which I'm aware of. Even attempting to explain it in a scripted review is going to be a bit of a challenge, but I'll give it a shot. An event occurred in this world which is referred to as the Death Stranding, and essentially it's that the worlds of the living and the dead have begun to bleed into each other. Stranding refers to when whales are beached, so the dead souls seeping into our world are referred to as beached things, or BTs. When humans die, they need to be burned in order for their souls to move on to the afterlife, or their bodies act as an anchor which tethers them to our world, turning them into BTs. And when the body decomposes, it has the chance to trigger a phenomenon known as a void out, which is essentially a nuclear explosion. These void outs have resulted in the near total destruction of humanity, with nothing but small city-states and scattered doomsday preppers hidden in bunkers remaining. Your character Sam, portrayed by Norman Reedus, works for a company called Bridges. The director of Bridges is working with the president of what was the United States of America, Bridget Strand, and her daughter Amelie, in order to establish what is effectively an internet, linking the remaining small cities and prepper outposts into the new United Cities of America, or UCA. With the help of BB, the jarred fetus which accompanies Reedus and acts as a radar to help him avoid BTs, Sam has to bring a necklace called the Cupid to each of these cities and outposts in order to bring them online. That is the base premise, and things haven't even started to get weird yet. The first few episodes of the game essentially serve as a prologue, introducing you to all of these concepts, sometimes in an elegant show-don't-tell way, and other times in an awkward, exposition-heavy dialogue dump. This is probably where most people will fall off the game, as episodes 1, 2, and 3 only have limited exciting moments, and if you're weirded out by the premise and don't find the environmental traversal fun, it'd be understandable if you wanted to say F this game and just move on. I sort of did that myself last year. I was playing on PS4 and got sidelined by the videos I was making on Jedi Fallen Order for the main Geeks and Gamers channel, and by the time I got back to Death Stranding, I totally forgot what was going on. This PC version was announced shortly after, so I made the decision to wait and start over when it came out, and I'm incredibly glad I did, because once this story gets going and you find yourself in shootouts against Mad Mikkelsen in World War I trenches, large-scale battles against Troy Baker controlling building-sized BTs, boxing matches which evoke the ending of Metal Gear Solid 4, and touching emotional stories about each of the secondary characters, it's hard not to see why so many people think of Death Stranding as such a unique, interesting title. It's just a hard one to recommend because it has bad pacing and a concept which is really difficult to understand. As you push past the hurdle of the game's opening 10 or so hours and start understanding systems like how the stealth works, understanding how to fight BTs when that stealth fails, and most importantly, how the game handles online multiplayer, the game becomes much more fun to play and the last 30 hours fly by. On the topic of multiplayer, here's what I mean. Death Stranding is a single-player game, but it's a single-player game in which you are also playing asynchronous online co-op with several other players at any given time. The first time you push to a new destination, you are completely alone and have to scale empty terrain with no help from other players, using nothing but the resources on your back. However, once you connect that destination to the chiral network, that whole area is then populated with structures, ropes, ladders, and vehicles left by other players. You're encouraged to leave players likes, as well as assist them in building more complex structures like bridges and roads. The more you engage with the online community, the more resources you donate into roads which may not be finished before you no longer need to use them, the more you'll find the game start sharing your work with other players and their work with you, so you might find that a road that you do need to use is built before you even get to it. Death Stranding is a game about feeling almost totally alone at times, but it's also a game about connecting to other players and working towards a common goal with people who you can't even see or talk to. However, you will see the specters of other players in the middle of boss fights who will chuck you weapons and health power-ups when you're running low on either. So as much as it's possible to play this game offline, completely in single-player mode, that would almost be missing the point and sacrificing some of the incredible ludonarrative consonance which it was designed to create, meaning connection between gameplay and the narrative of the game. The themes of Death Stranding are reinforced by the gameplay rather than contradicted by it. This is in stark contrast to a game like The Last of Us Part 2, in which Ellie learns that killing for revenge is bad after having stabbed hundreds of people in the neck to get to that point. Also, Troy Baker is much better served by the material Kojima gives him here. His character Higgs is batshit crazy, and Baker is clearly having the time of his life playing it.
So, no BTs, no void outs, no bullshit. Just a good old-fashioned boss fight. Stick versus rope. Gun versus strand. One more in before the end. One last. Game over.
Mads Mikkelsen puts in a stunning performance as well, with the final chapter revealing some heartbreaking truths which recontextualize the entire story. Lea Seydoux, on the other hand, seems a bit bored, and her catchphrase doesn't work very well. "I'm fragile, but not that fragile" isn't exactly Kojima's finest work, but her story is pretty solid overall. Margaret Qualley does well with her character, but anything I say about it will veer into spoiler territory, and Tommy Earl Jenkins kills it as the mysterious Die Hardman. Hollywood directors Guillermo del Toro and Nicholas Winding Refn also appear, but as, to steal a term from Liana Kay, skin suits, with other actors doing their voice and performance capture. Finally, Lindsay Wagner, the Bionic Woman, does a bit of both, doing her own performance capture and voice as President Bridget Strand, and lending her beautiful 1970s visage as a skin suit for the character of Amelie. While many people think that Kojima should just be making movies instead of games, as he was the pioneer of the 90-minute in-game cutscene, I disagree. I'm a bit of a Kojima fanboy, so there may be some apologia going on here, just stating my biases, but he is specifically a master of video game storytelling, and in particular, blurring the line between video game storytelling and film. Death Stranding would not work as a movie or a TV show, yet the competence of his execution in this medium is hard to deny, as he manages to give us a unique sci-fi world, which may or may not make sense. I mean, it definitely has rules in which it functions, although I'm sure I could poke holes in it if I start digging deep. But he presents it all with a level of artistic flair that you find yourself getting swept up on the ride he's taking you on. Or at least I did. The dialogue is often weird, the performances are uneven, and calling the story convoluted is an understatement, but Kojima has a way of making the whole greater than the sum of the parts, and executes an extremely satisfying experience if you're willing to be patient and let those weird aspects pay off. Questions such as the cause of the Death Stranding, the origin of BB and the other Bridge babies, who exactly the villains of the story are, the nature of Sam's relationship with Bridget Anomaly, why Fragile's body is covered up, why Mama is called Mama, why Hartman has an AED strapped to his chest, and why Mads Mikkelsen is such a badass are all answered. Kojima doesn't J.J. Abrams us on this stuff or bait a sequel, it's all just here. But are you gonna like the game? Maybe, and that's a big maybe. As I mentioned, even I fell off the game the first time I played, so it's very possible that Death Stranding may not get its hooks in you, or that the concept of a supernatural sci-fi game in which much of your time is spent delivering packages doesn't interest you at all, and it's completely understandable if that's the case. Just know that you're not just passing up on a walking simulator. It's also a game where you'll fight gigantic eldritch creatures, fling grenades made of your poop and blood at ghosts, and spend time hanging out with BB, the most badass fetus to ever appear in fiction. Yes, 2001: A Space Odyssey Starchild, BB is cooler than you, I said it and I meant it. As for this port, if the footage from this video isn't evidence enough, I assure you it looks and runs spectacularly. It supports NVIDIA's DLSS 2.0, which stands for Deep Learning Super Sampling, but it really means wizardry. It essentially uses artificial intelligence to guess what is going to happen in the next few frames, letting the game appear to run at a higher resolution or at a higher frame rate than your hardware should be capable of. This meant that when I was playing on a 4K TV, a game which looks this good was having no problems running at a solid 60 frames a second in native 4K, and when playing on a gaming monitor, it was holding between 80 and 120 frames a second at 1440p, all at max settings. Either way, the result was breathtaking.
You're breathtaking!
As the processing demands of technology like ray tracing start requiring more incredibly expensive hardware, technology like DLSS can do a lot to spoof the results, which is nothing but a win for gamers. It means we'll end up getting better looking and performing games on affordable hardware, which will hopefully mean a future where we can leave 30 frames per second in the dust. However, if you've got a PS4 and this game sounds interesting to you, the good news is that even the shooting sections don't require pinpoint precision aim, so Death Stranding is absolutely playable at 30 FPS, even if it looks and plays objectively better at 60. If you are on PC, are up for a unique and in a lot of ways absolutely insane experience, which takes a while to get going but is a visual tour de force with some hard-hitting narrative returns, strap a baby to your chest and get hiking.